Have you ever wondered why two people of the same age can look, feel, and function decades apart? One remains energetic, mentally sharp, and physically active into their 70s, while the other struggles with fatigue, aching joints, brain fog, and chronic health problems. Scientists have been searching for the answer for years, and one of the biggest discoveries is surprisingly simple. A hidden process called inflammation may quietly influence how we age every single day. What's even more surprising is that some of the most effective ways to support a healthier inflammatory response are not expensive supplements or trendy wellness hacks. They may already be sitting in your kitchen, growing in your garden, or hiding inside everyday habits that most people completely overlook. When many people hear the word inflammation, they immediately think it's something harmful. But that's only part of the story. Inflammation is actually one of the body's most important survival tools. Without it, even a small cut could become dangerous. Your immune system uses inflammation to defend against infections, repair damaged tissue, and help healing begin. The problem isn't inflammation itself. The problem begins when that response never fully turns off. Researchers have increasingly focused on what's often called chronic low-grade inflammation. Unlike the redness or swelling you notice after an injury, this type usually works quietly beneath the surface. You can't always see it. You may not even feel it directly. Yet evidence suggests it may be associated with many of the conditions that become more common as people grow older, including cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, arthritis, and certain forms of cancer. What makes this especially important is that chronic inflammation doesn't usually appear overnight. It develops slowly, influenced by daily choices, environmental exposures, sleep quality, stress levels, physical activity, and nutrition. Tiny changes accumulate over months and years until the body begins sending subtle signals that something is no longer balanced. Many people assume inflammation is simply an unavoidable part of aging. However, researchers have observed something fascinating. Some populations around the world reach their 80s, 90s, and even beyond while remaining remarkably healthy and independent. Although genetics certainly play a role, lifestyle appears to explain a significant portion of the difference. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Scientists studying healthy aging discovered that many long-lived individuals don't necessarily avoid inflammation completely. Instead, their bodies appear better able to regulate it. Their immune systems respond when needed and calm down when the job is finished. That balance may be one of the keys to extending not only lifespan, but health span, the years spent living with strength, independence, and vitality. So what helps support that balance? The answer may be far simpler than most people expect. One overlooked remedy begins with something most of us consume every day, often without giving it much thought. Extra virgin olive oil has been part of traditional Mediterranean eating patterns for thousands of years. For generations, it was appreciated mainly for its flavor. Modern science, however, has uncovered another fascinating possibility. Researchers have identified natural compounds within high-quality extra virgin olive oil called polyphenols. One of these, known as oleocanthal, has attracted considerable attention because laboratory studies suggest it behaves in ways somewhat similar to certain anti-inflammatory medications by influencing pathways involved in inflammation. That doesn't mean olive oil replaces medication, nor should it be viewed as a treatment. But evidence indicates that including extra virgin olive oil as part of an overall healthy dietary pattern may support the body's normal inflammatory balance. Even more interesting, scientists noticed that freshly harvested, minimally processed olive oil generally contains higher amounts of these beneficial compounds than heavily refined varieties. That peppery sensation you sometimes feel in the back of your throat isn't necessarily a flaw. Researchers believe it may actually signal the presence of oleocanthal. However, that's not the most interesting part. Scientists eventually realized that olive oil rarely acts alone. It appears to work best alongside an entire pattern of eating, rich in colorful vegetables, legumes, nuts, seafood, herbs, and whole grains. This combination creates a network of nutrients that may work together rather than individually. This idea has transformed nutrition science over the past 2 decades. Instead of asking which single food is healthiest, researchers increasingly ask how foods interact inside the body. That brings us to another remedy many people underestimate: color. Not the color of your clothes or your home, but the colors on your plate. Bright berries, deep green spinach, purple cabbage, red tomatoes, orange carrots, yellow peppers, and dark leafy greens all contain unique plant compounds called phytochemicals. Plants produce these molecules to protect themselves from environmental stress. Interestingly, when humans eat these plants, some of those same compounds may help support our own cellular defenses. Blueberries provide anthocyanins. Tomatoes contain lycopene. Broccoli offers sulforaphane precursors. Turmeric contains curcumin. Green tea supplies catechins. Pomegranates contribute elagitannins. Each compound behaves differently inside the body. Instead of acting like medications, many appear to influence signaling pathways involved in oxidative stress and inflammation. Researchers continue exploring exactly how these interactions occur, but evidence increasingly suggests dietary diversity matters more than consuming massive amounts of one so-called superfood. In fact, one common mistake is believing that taking a large dose of a single supplement can replace eating a variety of whole foods. The human body doesn't operate like a machine requiring only one missing part. It's more like an orchestra where hundreds of biological processes play together simultaneously. That's why scientists often emphasize dietary patterns over isolated nutrients. Yet the real discovery came years later. Researchers studying gut health uncovered something remarkable. Inside every healthy digestive system lives an enormous community of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms collectively known as the gut microbiome. Far from being passive passengers, these organisms actively communicate with the immune system. Some estimates suggest that a large portion of immune activity is closely linked with the gut. When beneficial microbes receive the nutrients they prefer, particularly dietary fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate. Evidence suggests these compounds may help support the integrity of the intestinal lining while also influencing immune function and inflammatory signaling. In other words, what you feed your gut microbes today may influence how your immune system behaves tomorrow. This shifts the conversation dramatically. Instead of asking only what foods reduce inflammation, researchers now ask another question: which foods nourish the beneficial organisms already working to help protect you? Beans, lentils, oats, onions, garlic, asparagus, apples, flaxseed, and many vegetables provide different forms of fiber that beneficial bacteria can ferment. Fermented foods may also contribute in interesting ways. Yogurt with live cultures, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and fermented vegetables contain microorganisms that scientists continue studying for their potential role in supporting microbial diversity. While not every fermented food works the same way, evidence indicates they may complement an overall fiber-rich diet. But researchers later discovered something surprising. Even the healthiest foods may not fully compensate for one habit that quietly fuels inflammation in many adults: poor sleep. For years, scientists viewed sleep mainly as a period of rest. Today, they increasingly understand it as one of the body's most active recovery processes. While you sleep, hormones shift, immune cells communicate, damaged proteins are cleared more efficiently, memories are consolidated, and countless repair mechanisms begin working behind the scenes. When sleep becomes consistently short or fragmented, studies have found changes in inflammatory markers. Researchers believe disrupted sleep may alter immune regulation, appetite hormones, stress responses, and metabolism simultaneously. Think about that for a moment. A single night of poor sleep may not create lasting problems, but hundreds of nights spread across several years create a very different biological environment. This may help explain why sleep quality is increasingly recognized as a pillar of healthy aging alongside nutrition and physical activity. Interestingly, Improving sleep isn't always about spending more hours in bed. Exposure to morning sunlight helps regulate circadian rhythms. Maintaining regular sleep schedules supports hormonal balance. Reducing bright light late at night may encourage natural melatonin production. Limiting heavy meals and excessive alcohol close to bedtime may also contribute to more restorative sleep for many individuals. Small habits, repeated consistently, often produce larger long term effects than occasional dramatic changes. And that leads directly to another overlooked remedy that costs nothing: movement. Many people imagine inflammation only in relation to illness, yet exercise presents an interesting paradox. A challenging workout briefly increases certain inflammatory signals. At first glance, that seems negative, but scientists discovered this temporary response is actually part of the body's adaptation process. As muscles recover, they become stronger. Blood vessels function more efficiently. Insulin sensitivity often improves. Immune regulation adapts. Over time, regular physical activity is associated with healthier inflammatory profiles compared with remaining sedentary. What's encouraging is that these benefits aren't limited to marathon runners or elite athletes. Research consistently suggests walking, cycling, swimming, resistance training, gardening, dancing, and other enjoyable forms of movement may all contribute. The key appears to be consistency rather than perfection. Even breaking up long periods of sitting with short movement breaks may support metabolic health. However, there's another piece of the puzzle that surprises many people. Psychological stress doesn't remain confined to the mind. When stress becomes chronic, the brain communicates with the immune system through hormones and nervous system signals. This ongoing communication may influence inflammatory pathways throughout the body. That doesn't mean every stressful day harms your health. Stress is a normal part of life. The concern arises when the body rarely receives opportunities to recover. Researchers have found that practices such as mindfulness, controlled breathing, spending time in nature, maintaining meaningful social relationships, and engaging in enjoyable activities may help regulate stress responses in many individuals. What's fascinating is that these practices often influence multiple biological systems simultaneously. Heart rate changes, hormones shift, sleep improves, immune activity adjusts. Rather than acting through one single pathway, they appear to support resilience across the entire body. And scientists are only beginning to understand just how interconnected these systems truly are. One discovery after another continues to reinforce the same message. The body isn't divided into isolated organs working independently. The brain influences the immune system. The immune system affects the gut. The gut communicates with metabolism. Metabolism interacts with cardiovascular health. Every system participates in an ongoing conversation. Understanding that conversation changes how we think about inflammation altogether. Instead of searching for one magic ingredient, one miracle supplement, or one overnight solution, research increasingly points toward a collection of everyday behaviors that gently support the body's remarkable ability to maintain balance. But there's another unexpected factor that researchers believe deserves far more attention, and it may completely change the way you think about one of the most common beverages consumed around the world. Coffee has long been one of the most debated beverages in nutrition science. Depending on the headline, it has been praised as a health-supporting drink one week and criticized the next. Understandably, many people have been left wondering what the evidence actually says. The answer, as is often the case in science, is more nuanced than simple yes or no. Researchers have identified hundreds of naturally occurring compounds in coffee beyond caffeine alone. Among these are polyphenols, antioxidants, and other plant-derived molecules that scientists continue to investigate for their potential effects on metabolism and inflammation. Large observational studies have found that moderate coffee consumption is associated with a lower risk of several chronic conditions in some populations. These studies cannot prove cause and effect, but they have encouraged researchers to look more closely at why these associations exist. Interestingly, the potential benefits appear to depend on what accompanies the coffee. A cup of black coffee or lightly sweetened coffee is very different from a large beverage loaded with sugar, flavored syrups, and heavy cream. In many cases, it isn't the coffee itself that changes the nutritional picture, it's everything added to it. This highlights an important principle that extends far beyond coffee. Foods and beverages exist within dietary patterns, not in isolation. The overall quality of your daily choices matters far more than whether one single ingredient is labeled good or bad. But researchers later discovered something even more surprising. Hydration itself may quietly influence inflammatory processes. Water is rarely discussed as a health breakthrough because it seems almost too ordinary. Yet every cell in the body depends on adequate hydration to function properly. Blood transports nutrients. The kidneys help filter waste. Joints rely on fluid for smooth movement. Cells maintain their structure through carefully balanced water levels. Even mild dehydration can influence how people feel, affecting concentration, physical performance, and energy levels. While drinking more water is not a cure-all, maintaining adequate hydration supports the body's normal physiological functions, including those involved in recovery and overall health. Sometimes the most powerful habits are the least glamorous, and this leads to another overlooked area that researchers increasingly appreciate: the timing of eating. For decades, nutrition conversations focused almost entirely on what people ate. More recently, scientists have begun studying when people eat. Our bodies operate according to internal biological clocks known as circadian rhythms. These rhythms influence hormone production, digestion, blood sugar regulation, and immune activity. Evidence suggests that consistently eating very late at night may affect these natural rhythms in some individuals. Meanwhile, maintaining regular meal patterns and allowing sufficient time between the final meal and sleep may support metabolic health. Researchers continue exploring this area, and many questions remain. However, one consistent finding has emerged. The human body appears to function best when daily behaviors, including eating, sleeping, and physical activity, align reasonably well with natural biological rhythms. That idea may sound simple, but its implications are profound. Health isn't only determined by isolated decisions, it's influenced by rhythm. Rhythm in sleep, rhythm in movement, rhythm in eating, rhythm in recovery. When these rhythms become chronically disrupted, the body may struggle to maintain the balance it evolved to achieve. However, that's not the most interesting part. Scientists studying exceptionally healthy older adults noticed something that had little to do with food: purpose. People who maintain meaningful goals, strong relationships, curiosity, and social engagement often experience healthier aging than expected. Researchers believe several mechanisms may contribute. Meaningful social interaction can reduce feelings of loneliness, which has been associated with chronic stress and poorer health outcomes. Purpose may encourage people to remain physically active, mentally engaged, and committed to healthier daily routines. Community often supports better habits almost effortlessly. People walk together, cook together, laugh together, solve problems together. In many of the world's longest-lived populations, health is not viewed as an individual project. It's woven into daily life. Meals are shared. Movement happens naturally. Families stay connected across generations. These cultural patterns may help explain why healthy aging involves much more than nutrition alone. And this is where modern science meets timeless wisdom. The healthiest lifestyles often consist of ordinary behaviors repeated consistently over many years. Not perfection, not extremes, consistency. This principle becomes even clearer when we examine another major contributor to inflammation that often escapes attention: ultra-processed foods. Researchers define these as industrially formulated products that frequently contain refined starches, added sugars, highly refined oils, artificial flavorings, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and numerous ingredients rarely used in home cooking. Not every packaged food belongs in this category, and convenience itself is not the problem. The concern arises when ultra-processed foods begin replacing nutrient-rich whole foods as the foundation of the diet. Studies have consistently observed that dietary patterns higher in ultra-processed foods are associated with poorer overall health outcomes. Scientists continue investigating the reasons, but several possibilities have emerged. These foods are often lower in fiber. They may encourage excess calorie intake because they are engineered to be highly palatable. They can displace fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and whole grains that provide beneficial nutrients and phytochemicals. Again, the issue is rarely one single ingredient. It's the cumulative pattern. Imagine your daily diet as a long conversation with your body. Every meal sends information. Every snack communicates something. Some choices provide raw materials for repair, recovery, and resilience. Others provide energy but relatively little nutritional support. Neither defines your health alone, but together, over thousands of meals, they help shape the internal environment in which your cells operate. Yet the real discovery came years later. Scientists began asking why some individuals respond differently to the same foods. Two people might eat identical meals but experience different blood sugar responses, different levels of fullness, and potentially different inflammatory reactions. One explanation may lie within the gut microbiome. Another may involve genetics, physical activity, sleep, stress, age, body composition, even meal timing. All of these factors interact. This emerging field is moving nutrition toward greater personalization. Instead of searching for one universal diet that fits everyone, researchers increasingly recognize that individuals may benefit from different approaches within the framework of evidence-based healthy eating. That doesn't make nutrition more confusing, it actually makes it more realistic. Human biology has always been wonderfully diverse. One principle, however, remains remarkably consistent across populations. Whole, minimally processed foods appear again and again in dietary patterns associated with healthy aging. Colorful vegetables, fruit, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, fish, extra virgin olive oil, whole grains, herbs, spices. These foods repeatedly appear in research examining longevity around the world, not because they are magical, but because together they provide a wide spectrum of nutrients that support the body's natural systems. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson of all. Inflammation is not simply something to fight, it's something to regulate. The immune system is not your enemy. It is one of the most sophisticated defense networks ever created by nature. The goal isn't to silence it. The goal is to help it respond appropriately when needed and settle back into balance afterward. That perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, how can I eliminate inflammation? A more useful question becomes, how can I create an environment in which my body functions the way it was designed to function? Every nourishing meal contributes to that environment. Every good night's sleep contributes. Every walk after dinner, every strength training session, every serving of vegetables, every meaningful conversation, every moment spent managing stress in healthy ways. These seemingly ordinary actions may not feel dramatic today, but biology keeps score quietly. Cells are constantly adapting. Blood vessels continuously respond to daily conditions. Immune cells communicate every second. The brain rewires itself through experience. Muscles strengthen with use. The gut microbiome changes according to what we eat. Our bodies are never standing still. They are always responding. This understanding offers something deeply encouraging. It's never only the past that matters. Today's choices become tomorrow's biology. Research suggests that beneficial changes can begin surprisingly quickly. Improvements in dietary quality, regular physical activity, better sleep, and stress management may influence important health markers over time. While the pace and extent of change vary from person to person, the body often retains an impressive capacity to adapt. That is one of the most hopeful messages in modern health science. Healthy aging is rarely built through one extraordinary decision. It is built through thousands of ordinary ones. Choosing water over another sugary drink, adding another serving of vegetables, taking a walk instead of remaining seated all evening, cooking one more meal at home, going to bed a little earlier, calling a friend, stepping outside into the morning sunlight. These actions may seem almost insignificant in isolation, yet repeated across years, they help shape the internal conditions in which health either flourishes or struggles. Dr. William Lee and many other researchers emphasize an empowering idea. Our bodies possess remarkable systems designed to protect, repair, and renew themselves. Rather than searching for shortcuts, we can support those systems by giving them the resources they need through evidence based lifestyle choices. Science continues to evolve, and future discoveries will undoubtedly refine what we know about inflammation, nutrition, and longevity. But one message has remained remarkably consistent across decades of research. Health is not built by chasing the latest trend. It is built by consistently practicing habits that support the body's natural ability to maintain balance. The decisions we make today may seem small, but over years and decades, those choices can shape how we age, how we feel, and how long we remain healthy. That's why understanding the science matters. If you enjoyed exploring the evidence behind healthy aging and inflammation, remember that the goal is not perfection, it's progress. Stay curious, keep learning, and let science guide your next healthy choice, one day, one meal, and one habit at a time.